I woke up on my wedding day with a heart full of hope. 3 years of dating Allison had led to this perfect moment. The ceremony was magical, and I could not stop smiling as we exchanged vows. That night in our luxury hotel suite, when I leaned in to kiss her, she turned away. "I am too tired, Channing," she whispered. I understood completely. But one night turned into 1 week, then 2 weeks, then an entire month of rejection. When I finally confronted her, her cold response shattered me. "My body, my choice. You have no right." Before I continue with what happened, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever felt betrayed by someone you loved. I met Allison 3 years ago at a company Christmas party. I was 32 and had just been promoted to marketing director. She worked in the human resources department, and the moment I saw her laughing with colleagues by the punch bowl, something clicked inside me. Her dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, and when she smiled, the entire room seemed brighter. "That is Allison Matthews," my coworker had said, noticing my stare. "She is single and way out of your league." I took that as a challenge. That night, I gathered my courage and approached her. We talked until the cleaning crew started packing up chairs around us. She gave me her number, and by the next weekend we were on our first date at an Italian restaurant downtown. Those early months were everything I had ever wanted in a relationship. Allison was passionate, attentive, and seemed genuinely interested in building a future together. Our physical connection was amazing. We spent entire weekends barely leaving my apartment, ordering takeout and exploring each other in every way possible. After 2 years of dating, I knew she was the one. I planned an elaborate proposal at the same restaurant where we had our first date. The owner helped me hide the ring in her dessert. When she found it, her eyes filled with tears, and she nodded yes before I even finished asking the question. The entire restaurant erupted in applause. "I cannot wait to be your wife," she had whispered in my ear. The next 10 months were a whirlwind of wedding planning. Allison threw herself into every detail, from the flowers to the seating arrangements. She spent hours looking at wedding dresses with her mother and sister. I had never seen her so excited about anything. Sometimes she would call me in the middle of the workday just to tell me about a new idea for the centerpieces or the perfect song for our first dance. "This is going to be the best day of our lives," she would say, and I believed her completely. Our wedding day arrived on a perfect June afternoon. The ceremony was held in a historic church downtown with sunlight streaming through stained glass windows. Allison looked breathtaking in her white lace dress as she walked down the aisle toward me. I fought back tears watching her, thinking about how lucky I was. The reception was equally magnificent. We danced, cut the cake, and accepted countless congratulations from friends and family. Her father gave a touching speech that made everyone cry, and my best man Jake told embarrassing stories that made everyone laugh. It was the perfect celebration of our love. As we drove away from the reception hall in our decorated car, Allison rested her head on my shoulder. "I love you so much," she said. I squeezed her hand, unable to express just how happy I felt in that moment. We checked into the presidential suite of the Four Seasons downtown. Rose petals led from the door to the king-sized bed, and champagne chilled in an ice bucket nearby. I carried Allison across the threshold, both of us laughing as I pretended to struggle with her weight. "Welcome to married life, Mrs. Turner," I said, setting her down gently on the bed. She smiled but seemed distracted. "I think I need a shower first," she said, gathering her toiletries bag. "The hairspray is making my scalp itch." I nodded, pouring us each a glass of champagne while I waited. 30 minutes later, she emerged in a cotton pajama set, not the lingerie I knew she had packed for our honeymoon. "Are you okay?" I asked, offering her a glass. "Just exhausted," she replied, taking a small sip before placing the glass on the nightstand. "Today was a lot. Do you mind if we just sleep tonight?" Though disappointed, I understood completely. Planning a wedding was stressful, and the day had been emotionally draining. "Of course," I said, kissing her forehead. "We have our whole lives ahead of us." I held her as she fell asleep, telling myself tomorrow would be different. It was not. Our honeymoon in Hawaii was supposed to be a romantic escape. I had booked an oceanfront suite at a luxury resort on Maui, with a private hot tub on the balcony overlooking the Pacific. The first morning we woke to the sound of waves crashing against the shore. I turned to Allison, reaching for her under the covers, but she quickly slipped out of bed. "I want to catch the sunrise yoga class," she explained, already pulling on her workout clothes. "Why not go for a swim? I will meet you for breakfast after." This pattern continued throughout our trip. During the day, Allison was the perfect travel companion. We went snorkeling, took a helicopter tour of the island, and enjoyed candlelit dinners at expensive restaurants. But each night, she found a new reason to avoid intimacy. She was sunburned. She had a headache. She drank too much wine and felt sick. She wanted to call her mother to check on her cat. By the fifth night, I could no longer hide my frustration. "Is something wrong?" I asked, as she claimed to be too full from dinner to do anything but sleep. "No, everything is perfect," she replied, scrolling through social media on her phone. "Why would you ask that?" "Because we have not been intimate since before our wedding," I said carefully. "I thought maybe something was bothering you." She put down her phone and sighed. "I am just tired, Channing. The wedding was stressful, and now all these activities every day. Can you stop pressuring me?" "I am not pressuring you," I insisted. "I just want to understand." "There is nothing to understand. I am tired. End of story." She rolled over, effectively ending the conversation. I laid awake that night, staring at the ceiling and listening to the waves, wondering what had changed. Before our wedding, our physical connection had been effortless and frequent. Now it was as if a wall had been erected between us. When we returned home, I hoped things would improve once we settled into our routine. We had purchased a 3-bedroom house in a nice suburb 6 months before the wedding. It was a fixer-upper that we had spent weekends painting and renovating together. Moving in as husband and wife should have been exciting, the beginning of building our life together. Instead, the distance between us grew. Allison started working later at the office. She joined a gym and would go straight there after work, not returning home until after 8 most evenings. When she did come home, she was always too exhausted for anything beyond a quick microwave dinner and mindless television before bed. One night, as we sat on opposite ends of the couch, I noticed her smiling at her phone. "Good news?" I asked. She startled quickly, turning her phone face down. "Just a funny meme," she said, but her cheeks had flushed pink. When she went to shower, curiosity got the better of me. I glanced at her phone, but it was locked with a new passcode. She had never hidden her phone from me before. The next morning, I checked our phone bill online. In the past month, there was one number that appeared dozens of times, often late at night or during her lunch breaks. I did not recognize it, and when I casually asked about her day at work over dinner, she mentioned a meeting that I knew she had not attended based on a text from her coworker asking where she had been. Small changes in her appearance began to register. New clothes I had never seen before, more makeup than she used to wear, a different perfume. She started straightening her naturally curly hair every morning, something she had always said took too much time. My suspicions grew, but I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this was just a phase. Maybe the pressure of the wedding had changed our dynamic temporarily. Maybe she was going through something personal she was not ready to share. I made various attempts to reconnect with her. I booked a couples massage at her favorite spa. I cooked her favorite meals. I surprised her with tickets to a Broadway show she had mentioned wanting to see. Each gesture was met with polite appreciation, but no real enthusiasm or reciprocation. After 3 weeks of marriage, I confided in my best friend Jake over beers. "I think Allison might be cheating on me," I admitted, the words burning my throat. Jake looked shocked. "Already? You just got married." "We have not been intimate since before the wedding," I explained. "She is always on her phone working late, and I caught her in several lies about where she has been." "Have you tried talking to her?" Jake asked. "Maybe suggest counseling." I had suggested a marriage counselor the previous week. Allison had laughed it off. "We have been married less than a month, Channing. Do not be so dramatic." "I have tried everything," I told Jake. "She just gets defensive or changes the subject." Jake looked uncomfortable. "I hate to ask this, but is it possible she married you for, financial reasons? You did just get that big promotion and the house." The thought had crossed my mind. My recent promotion had come with a substantial raise, and I had paid the majority of the down payment on our house. But Allison had a good job too. It seemed unlikely that money was her primary motivation. "I do not know what to think anymore," I admitted. Jake put his hand on my shoulder. "You need to confront her directly. No more tiptoeing around it. You deserve answers." I knew he was right. The confrontation happened exactly 1 month after our wedding. I had spent the day rehearsing what I wanted to say, trying to find words that would express my hurt without sounding accusatory. I wanted to save our marriage if possible, to understand what had gone wrong and fix it. I made dinner that night, Allison's favorite pasta with vodka sauce. I opened a bottle of the red wine we had discovered on our 3rd date. I even bought flowers, arranging them in the crystal vase we had received as a wedding gift. When Allison walked in 2 hours later than she had promised, she seemed surprised by the effort. "What is all this for?" she asked, setting down her gym bag. "I thought we could have a nice dinner together," I said. "We need to talk." She looked instantly wary, but sat down at the table. I served the food and poured the wine, trying to create a relaxed atmosphere. We made small talk about work for a few minutes before I gathered my courage. "Allison, it has been a month since our wedding, and something is clearly wrong between us," I began. "You avoid being intimate with me, you are barely home, and when you are distant. I need to understand what is happening. Is there someone else?" Her expression hardened. "Is that what this is? An elaborate setup to accuse me of cheating?" "Wow, Channing. I am not accusing you," I said, trying to stay calm. "I am telling you how I feel, and asking for honesty." "There is nothing to be honest about," she snapped. "I have been busy with work. Not everything is about sex, you know." "This is not just about sex," I insisted. "It is about intimacy, communication, being partners. We have not connected in any meaningful way since before our wedding. If something is wrong, please tell me so we can work on it together." She pushed her plate away, barely touched. "You know what? I do not owe you an explanation for everything I do. My body, my choice. You have no right to demand intimacy from me, married or not." Her words felt like a slap. "I am not demanding anything. I am asking what changed. One day we were completely in sync, and the next it is like you cannot stand to be touched by me. Maybe I just needed space, and you are too needy to give it to me," she said coldly. The conversation devolved from there. No matter how I approached the subject, Allison deflected, became defensive, or turned the blame back on me. She finally stormed out, saying she was going to stay with her sister for the night, leaving me alone with the cooling pasta and half-empty wine bottle. The next day at work, I could barely focus. Around lunchtime, my colleague David stopped by my office. "Hey, I meant to tell you I saw Allison last week at that new French restaurant downtown. I was going to say hi, but she seemed deep in conversation with her client." "What client?" I asked, my stomach tightening. David looked confused. "I do not know, some guy. Well-dressed, good-looking dude." I figured it was a work thing. Human resources did not have client meetings. Allison worked exclusively with internal employees. That evening I made a decision I never thought I would make. I contacted a private investigator. It felt sleazy and wrong, but I needed to know the truth. The PI charged an exorbitant hourly rate, but promised results within a week. It only took 3 days. The PI sent me photos of Allison meeting a man at various locations around town, holding hands at a park, kissing outside an apartment building, entering a hotel together in the middle of the afternoon. The man was tall, athletically built with salt and pepper hair. According to the PI, his name was Ryan Matthews, and he was an investment banker. 35 years old, never married. The last photo broke me. It showed Allison and Ryan embracing in the parking lot of a restaurant. She was wearing the diamond earrings I had given her as a wedding gift. I waited for her at home that evening, the photos spread out on the coffee table. When she walked in and saw them, she froze. "Who hired a photographer to spy on me?" she demanded, but her voice trembled slightly. "Who is Ryan?" I asked quietly. She stared at me for a long moment before her shoulders slumped. "He is someone I was seeing before you, and I got serious. And now," she sat down suddenly, looking very small. "We reconnected a few months before the wedding. At first, it was just coffee to catch up. Then you started sleeping with him," I finished for her. She did not deny it. I was confused, Channing. I had feelings for him that never completely went away. "But I cared about you too, and we had all these wedding plans and everyone was so excited. So you went through with marrying me while sleeping with him." The betrayal was almost too enormous to comprehend. "I thought once we were married, my feelings for Ryan would fade," she said, as if this somehow excused her actions. "I thought I could commit to our marriage fully." "But you cannot even bear to let me touch you," I said, the realization dawning. "Because you are still sleeping with him. It is complicated," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Actually, it is not complicated at all," I replied, surprising myself with how calm I sounded, despite the hurricane raging inside me. "You lied. You cheated. You made vows you had no intention of keeping." "That is not fair," she protested. "I do care about you, Channing. You are stable, reliable. You will be a good father someday." The pieces clicked into place. So I was the safe choice, the good provider, while Ryan was what? The passion, the excitement. Her silence was answer enough. "Get out," I said quietly. "This is my house too," she protested. "The house that I paid 70% of the down payment for. The house that is primarily in my name because your credit was not good enough to be on the mortgage." My voice was rising now. "Get out, or I will call your mother and tell her exactly why our marriage is over after 1 month." She gathered some belongings and left, slamming the door behind her. I sat in silence for hours. Afterward, the photos still spread before me, wondering how I had missed the signs, how I had been so completely fooled by someone I thought I knew. The next morning I called in sick to work and made an appointment with a divorce lawyer. Thomas Wilson was highly recommended, though his fees made me wince. In his wood-paneled office, I explained my situation. 1 month, he said, eyebrows raised. That might be a record even for me. I want an annulment if possible, I said. The marriage was fraudulent from the start. Thomas nodded, making notes. With the evidence from the PI, we have grounds. She entered the marriage in bad faith. Given the short duration and these circumstances, an annulment is possible. We will also push for her to cover your legal fees. I signed the paperwork that day. The filing fee felt like paying to amputate a limb, painful but necessary to prevent further damage. Thomas promised to have Allison served with papers within 48 hours. I expected rage when Allison received the divorce papers. Instead, she showed up at our house crying hysterically. "You cannot do this," she sobbed, mascara streaming down her face. "Please, Channing, I made a mistake. I will end things with Ryan. I will go to counseling. Anything you want." "It is too late," I said, maintaining my distance despite her attempts to embrace me. "You should have thought about that before our wedding." Ryan broke things off, she admitted, her voice small. "As soon as he found out about the divorce filing, he said he does not want to be involved in this mess. So that explained her sudden desire to save our marriage. Her backup plan had fallen through." "That is not my problem," I replied. The next day her mother showed up. Margaret Matthews had always been kind to me, and seeing her on my doorstep made my heart ache for what could have been. "Allison made a terrible mistake," Margaret said, her eyes pleading. "But marriages face challenges. If you truly love her, you can work through this." "Mrs. Matthews," I said gently, "Allison was sleeping with another man before and during our marriage. She married me under false pretenses. That is not a challenge couples work through. That is fraud." Margaret looked genuinely shocked. "She told me you were having normal newlywed adjustment issues." "I am sorry you had to find out this way," I said, and I meant it. 3 days later, I received a text from a number I did not recognize. "This is Stephanie, Allison's sister. Can we meet? I have information you should know." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Stephanie looked like a younger version of Allison, but her expression was serious, her eyes sad. "Allison does not know. I am meeting you," she began. "But I cannot let her get away with this again." "Again?" I asked. Stephanie nodded. "You are not the first. 3 years ago, she was engaged to a guy named Brian. Same pattern. She cheated with a coworker, but that time he caught them before the wedding. 2 years before that, she lived with her college boyfriend while secretly dating one of his friends." I felt sick. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I am tired of watching her hurt good people," Stephanie said firmly. "And because the way she talks about you, she sees you as a meal ticket, Channing. She told me your promotion was the reason she went through with the wedding, even though she was in love with Ryan." The confirmation of Jake's suggestion stung, but I appreciated Stephanie's honesty. "Thank you for telling me. I have texts," she added, sliding her phone across the table. "Between Allison and Ryan, and between Allison and me, where she admits everything. If they help with your case, you can use them." I scrolled through the messages, each one another nail in the coffin of my marriage. Allison discussing how she never intended to be faithful, how she planned to gradually gain access to my finances, how she thought I was boring but stable. "Why are you helping me?" I asked Stephanie. "She is your sister." "Because someone needs to stop her pattern of using people," Stephanie replied simply. "And because you seem like a decent guy who deserves better." The court date for our annulment hearing arrived 6 weeks after I filed the paperwork. I arrived early with Thomas, my stomach in knots. Allison was already there with her lawyer, a severe-looking woman in a gray suit. She tried to catch my eye, but I focused on the paperwork in front of me. Just as the judge entered, the courtroom door opened again. Ryan Matthews walked in looking uncomfortable in a tailored suit. "Your Honor," Ryan's lawyer said, "my client wishes to make a statement relevant to these proceedings." The judge nodded, and Ryan was sworn in. What followed was even more shocking than I had anticipated. Allison Matthews and I were in a relationship that began approximately 8 months before her wedding to Channing Turner, Ryan testified. She told me she was only marrying him for financial security, and that we would continue our relationship after the wedding. She specifically planned to establish herself as his wife, gain access to his accounts and assets, and then file for divorce after approximately 2 years, at which point she would be entitled to significant alimony. The courtroom fell silent. Allison's face had drained of color. Her lawyer was frantically whispering to her. "And why are you choosing to testify today, Mr. Matthews?" the judge asked. "Because what she did was wrong," Ryan replied, not looking at Allison. "And because she tried to manipulate me too, claiming she was in an abusive relationship when she was not. I recently discovered she has done this before to other men." The judge turned to Allison. "Do you wish to respond to these allegations, Mrs. Turner?" Allison's lawyer stood. "My client exercises her right not to testify at this time." The judge did not look impressed. After reviewing the evidence, including the PI photos, text messages provided by Stephanie and Ryan's testimony, she granted the annulment. Furthermore, she ordered Allison to return all wedding gifts and jewelry, and to pay my legal fees in full. The house would remain mine exclusively, as I had contributed the majority of the down payment, and Allison's name was not on the mortgage. As we left the courtroom, Allison tried one more time. "Channing, please," she began, grabbing my arm. I gently but firmly removed her hand. "Goodbye, Allison." Outside, Ryan approached me. "I am sorry," he said awkwardly. "I did not know how serious it was with you two until I saw your engagement announcement in the paper. By then, she had convinced me you were not a good person, that your relationship was already falling apart." "We were both deceived," I said simply. I did not have the energy to hate him anymore. The months following the annulment were difficult. I threw myself into work, took up running, and started seeing a therapist. The betrayal had shaken my trust in my own judgment. How had I missed the signs? How had I been so completely fooled? "You saw what you wanted to see," my therapist explained, "and Allison was skilled at presenting exactly that image. This was not your fault." Gradually, I began to heal. Stephanie and I kept in touch, developing an unexpected friendship. She introduced me to her circle of friends, helping me build a new social network, separate from the one I had shared with Allison. About a year after the annulment, I ran into Allison at a grocery store. She looked different. The designer clothes and perfect makeup were gone, replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. She told me she was working at a different company for significantly less pay, as word of her behavior had spread in our professional community. She was living with her parents again. "I am sorry for what I did to you," she said, and for the first time she seemed sincere. "I have been seeing a therapist too. Turns out I have some serious issues with attachment and honesty. I hope you work through them," I said, meaning it. I no longer wished her ill. I just wanted to move on. And I had moved on. 3 months earlier, I had met Laura at a charity run organized by my company. She was smart, funny, and refreshingly straightforward. We had been dating casually, taking things slowly. Unlike Allison, Laura did not push for commitment or grand gestures. She seemed content to let our relationship develop naturally. "The annulment was the best thing that could have happened to me," I told Stephanie over coffee one day. "As painful as it was, it taught me so much about myself and what I really want in a relationship," which is, she prompted. "Honesty," I replied without hesitation. "Even when it is difficult, even when the truth is not what I want to hear, I would rather face a painful truth than live with a comfortable lie." I learned that the people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries and be honest about their feelings. I learned that my value is not determined by someone else's ability to recognize it. And most importantly, I learned that sometimes the most painful betrayals lead us to exactly where we need to be, but only if we have the courage to choose ourselves first. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that ultimately led you to a better place in life? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences that might help you navigate your own relationships. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, you deserve someone who chooses you completely, not just when it is convenient for them.